Paddy is really making waves lately, and his latest stunt includes none other than Conor McGregor. Let's check it out. Recently, Paddy called out Jake Paul for fixing his fights, but he made sure to give the boxer credit where credit is due. Paddy stated, "I'll give Jake Paul his due now. He's training so much that he probably could beat up professional boxers. He's got unlimited funds and he hasn't got to do anything else. He hasn't got to go do a job, all he's got to do is box. He gets the best coaches in, he gets the best nutritionists in, and stuff like that. Jake Paul is actually not that bad now, even though I think his fights are fixed." Naturally, Jake had to fire back, and he challenged Paddy to $1 million sparring match. Jake stated, "I was really wanting to like you, but then you came out to say my fight against Anderson Silva was rigged. I'm sick and tired of this narrative. You're disrespecting your own GOAT of your own sport. You're saying Anderson Silva is a criminal, a fraud. It's stupid. Since you wouldn't rig a fight, let's spar. Fly to Puerto Rico. I'll get you a private jet. We can do 5 3-minute rounds of boxing." Paddy mentioned that Jake made an offer for a challenge that just didn't make sense since he's about to fight in Las Vegas. But Jake counteroffered a new date and location to accommodate him. Jake tweeted, "Fellow, my team told me you've been trying to book me for your podcast, January 5th, so I'm sending you a jet to bring you to Puerto Rico. Both of our teams will film. We spar 5 rounds and then we can do your podcast. By then you'll be back to your normal weight. No excuses?" Well, it turns out that Paddy has turned his sights to yet another superstar for a potential fight. Paddy has called out none other than Conor McGregor, and fans are seriously contemplating whether or not they'd like to see that. Conor even spoke about the potential of fighting Paddy almost a year ago.
The lightweight division is so fun. Back in England we had Paddy Pimblett. I personally would love to see that fight. He's similar to you in that he's a polarising figure. Love him or hate him, he brings it.
He's a good kid, Paddy. The Scousers, you gotta love the Scousers. You know, my father was born in Liverpool. One side of my family is from there. So I got a lot of love for that part of the world. And who knows, I will never say no to nothing. You know what I mean? Never say never, as they say.
Well, it looks like Paddy wants Conor to put his money where his mouth is. In fact, he thinks that it would break records. Paddy stated it would be the biggest pay-per-view that the UFC has ever seen. Like, put it that way, goes without saying. I think when Conor comes back, he'll be fighting at 170 pounds. He'll struggle to make 155 now, to be honest. He's looking big, but I respect Conor. You know what I mean? What he's done for the sport. He's done a lot more than most of the people that have done this sport. And I think he gets a bad rep. Like, he doesn't get the respect he deserves. Yeah, get that paper, you know that? No brainer, you know what I mean? Anybody that says no to fight Conor is an idiot, simple as that. I'll bet you Rafael dos Anjos regrets pulling out of that fight years ago. Bet you that's the biggest regret of his life. Paddy's comments about Conor coming back at 170 seem well-founded, too. And Joe Rogan even commented on the new physicality of Conor on his podcast.
That's him now. He's super jacked. Whoa, USADA's gonna take a visit to
That's
him
Conor?
Yeah.
Right now? Oh, dude, he looks like he's about to go WWF.
Yeah, he looks like a bodybuilder.
Well,
like
that's
the 70s.
It's a weird picture, honestly. I mean, he's definitely jacked.
To top it off, Conor has actually come to Paddy's defense against another fighter. Paddy was labeled as the dollar store Conor McGregor by Maxwell Friedman, and Conor responded. Conor stated, "A dollar store Conor is still worth millions. Let's go, young Paddy Pim. Don't know who this other clown is." Conor has had enough to deal with on his own, with claims of steroids being popular.
Artem Lobov news, and Conor actually responded to that saying that Artem's a rat. Now this whole thing about steroids is really popping up, and it stemmed off of Anthony Smith's comments about him, saying that it really bothers him that Conor McGregor is able to get outside the USADA pool for the entire 2022 year. He pointed to that Conor has gotten a lot bigger. Conor looks like he's probably not going to make 155 soon. I mean, the guy is absolutely huge. I mean, look at the size difference of when he weighed in at 170, which was pretty much his walk-around weight at the time. And look at him now. I wouldn't be surprised if he is like 200 pounds. And Anthony Smith hinted at it's due to steroids. There's no way someone like Conor could get that big while recovering from his injury and also recovering very quickly, where Chris Weidman is taking a lot longer than Conor to recover. And we know about Anderson Silva. Silva came back pretty quickly, but he got popped for steroids on his return. So this is not me saying it. I'm not saying Conor's not in anything, but Anthony Smith is definitely putting out there that Conor McGregor has to be on steroids by the way he looks and by his unprecedented recovery. Conor then said that he's going to be able to test with USADA in February, and he's definitely going to fight next year. He did respond to Anthony Smith, and he didn't necessarily deny the claim, which is very interesting. He says, quote, "This rat spoke to Weidman, who had the same horrific injury and is having severe complications still, He is bothered that I was able to heal to a normal way of life. He, like many other rats in the game, would be happier if I wasn't able to play with my children the same again. The audacity of this loser, Anthony Smith, you're a loser. The percent of the bones joining back after a break like this is so low. You think I care about anything else? I'm the most tested fighter all time in the combat sport. I give everything to this game, you nothing. I thought you broke your leg yourself in your last fight, you little dope. You embarrassment of a man, keep my name out of your mouth. As everything was fully disclosed before I began, the state of allowance for athletes to recover from injuries, as horrific as the one I overcame, must be assessed. My thoughts are with Wyman and Anderson Silva. The three of us, and only us, know the severity of this injury. And I agree with him on that. He's absolutely right. Not many guys suffer those kind of injuries in MMA, but it's interesting because he never really denied any kind of steroid use. If anything, if I'm going to make an analytical assessment here, it's almost like he's saying that he had to do what he had to do in order to recover from this injury. And that is why he said there at the end, everything was fully disclosed before I began. The state of allowance for athletes to recover from injuries as bad as the one I overcame must be assessed. And he brought some sentimental value to it, like saying that the rats in the game would be happier if I wasn't able to play with my children. And when I read that, it sounded like these guys would rather bash me for taking some kind of steroid than me recovering and able to live my own life. That's what it seems like, but there is no confirmation to it. There's no evidence in that. But most of the people in the game, at least from what I'm seeing in the MMA community, a lot of people seem to think that Conor is definitely on something. And the last bit of information that we have to look over is USADA actually pointing out a statement about Conor McGregor. They say, quote, "Once UFC athletes are enrolled in the testing program, they are subject to testing, even when not competing unless they notify the UFC of their retirement, their contract is terminated, or they are otherwise removed from the program. In the event of an athlete's return to the UFC, they are required to remain in the USADA testing pool for 6 months before they are permitted to compete. Similar to World Anti-Doping Agency rules, the UFC may grant an exemption to the 6-month written notice rule in exceptional circumstances or where the strict application of the rule would be manifestly unfair to the athlete, but in both cases under the UFC rules, the athlete must provide at least 2 negative samples before returning to competition."
Chael Sonnen has come to Conor's defense lately, though. Sonnen stated, "Conor's clean. He's been trolling. He's been having fun with people. Come on. A guy doesn't go out and do a crime and then document the crime. Conor put the pictures out. He's having fun with people. He's clean. I'll tell you, I believe that Conor left the pool. He's never been clear on this. I believe he left because of logical reasons. The whereabouts clause in violation of having to let someone know where you are 24/7, 365, right? If you're not where you said you're going to be, it's a mark. And if you get 3 marks in a calendar year, it's an instant fail. And that fail comes with a minimum punishment of 2 years. Note, the USADA website actually says up to 2 years for a first violation, not a minimum. I just bring for you that if he was off doing